We got there. It's been a long journey, but we've made it. We're at least 3 out of 4 of us are here. That's something, right?
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to episode 53 of the Foam News Collective podcast. I'm KT. I'm here unusually with Grims, and not yet with Vile. This is an uncommon situation.
A bit of a role reversal.
A little bit of a role reversal, but that's fine. We've had some scheduling challenges, as those of you listening and realizing that the podcast is about a half a week late may have noticed. But we are excited to be here with Stan, the designer and head of Project Stinger. Thank you so much for coming on. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
It is
good weather here in Belgium, finally.
Right. What? Let's see. We were just figuring this out. What time is it where you are? It's like approaching 5 o'clock, right?
Now it's
5 p.m. Yeah, it is. We this podcast, if Vile gets here, will be across 4 different time zones. But that's just what it takes to bring y'all the content. I hate using the word content, but it is what it is.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
A product.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Everything that matters to you, absolutely the most, content. Product.
Yeah.
We're going to chat with Stan about Project Stinger and about his experiences connecting with the Nerf hobby and designing a blaster. We are also going to be answering questions from the Ko-Fi, and Stan will be playing our increasingly notorious hobby trivia game. I don't know if you knew that, but you are. And then we're going to look at some new blasters that have come out of the hobby recently, get people's reactions to some pretty unusual designs that popped up in the last couple weeks. And then I also want to talk a little bit about some releases that Xshot put out recently that have been inciting a lot of discussion. A lot of stuff has happened. Specifically, we are going to talk about Xshot's Pro Motorized AEB, which was revealed after our episode came out. So we covered the leak, but not the blaster. We will talk about the blaster in the next episode. But since we're behind schedule on the podcast, we actually get to talk about it on the podcast. And since it's sort of a low-cost, really interesting motorized blaster, I'll be curious to get Stan's thoughts on it in particular as a designer of a pretty advanced flywheeler. But on that, let's dig right into it. Stan, who are you? What? Tell us about yourself a little bit.
I am just 21 years old. I'm a student at Group T here in Leuven, Belgium. And I like making things. And it turns out I made something that people really wanted, which was the Nerf gun.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to just make a bunch of random things. And
what other kind of stuff are you doing? Because I know you do like filmmaking, and are you studying media stuff?
No, I study industrial engineering.
Oh, okay. So the engineering is your school focus, and then
specialty. Yeah. But I do filmmaking a lot too. I do videos for people, a lot of students club videos, which is always fun because they have no money and no time, and you just kind of have to run and gun and so.
Right.
Or events and stuff. Yeah.
As evidenced also by the fact that I think you have the best video quality of anyone that's ever been on this podcast.
Well, yeah, this is my cinema camera.
Yeah, it's good. It's nice.
Very good quality for sure.
Yeah. Well, you're a cartoon, so you get by.
I make do.
He's cheating.
I make do.
So it's, you're 21. You've been at this. How did you get into school for engineering? Were you what is your main focus in engineering?
Well, yeah, my main focus is electronics and ICT, which means programming and stuff.
Okay.
But I really only chose it because the other option, which is electromechanics, is sort of something I already do on my own, and I like doing myself. So I just decided to go for electronics and ICT is mostly programming. So and I hate programming. So I thought maybe I could force myself to learn it.
Right.
I didn't.
Okay.
I still hate programming.
I mean, that's fair. You're allowed to have your own personal opinions.
I don't hate programming, but I just
I mean, you're an engineer who
parts.
hates programming, and based on your videos for the Stinger, you're a filmographer who hates being in front of the camera. So
I do?
Well, you said that at one point. You said at the beginning of one of the
I'm not
Stinger
used
videos
to it.
that
I'm always
you're just not
behind
used
the
to
camera.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Is there what else? What else do you do? Like what brings you joy outside of work, or is that work, school?
We're going to fly FPV drones later tonight.
Nice.
We built them ourselves. I can show you.
Yeah, please, by all means, do. For the audio listeners, he's walked over to find a little drone. Oh, that's so cool.
He's a little drone.
Yeah, and you build
We built it.
drones, right?
And we have two identical. Yuna, show me your drone. We have two. My friend and I have the identical drone.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
built it, and we're going to fly it and crash it probably.
Of course.
But
You gotta.
first, fly it.
You gotta.
Oh, those are quite lovely. Those are
So that brings
lovely.
me joy.
Yeah.
What else brings me joy? I go to the gym. Gym brings me joy.
Great.
And then that's kind of it, I think.
Cool.
What else do I do? Friends. Yeah,
Wonderful.
just going out, drinking a couple of beers.
Well, so what got you involved with the idea of making a Nerf blaster? How did you go down that path?
I've been making Nerf blasters since like I was 13, like 3D printing them. Like I didn't make a lot of them. I just like tinkering with them. I made a Lynx. I think that was my first one, or maybe not. And then I made an FDL3, a dual stage FDL3
Wait.
at some point.
I'm doing the math now. When was Stan 13?
No, I didn't start when I started 3D printing when I was 13. Probably
Okay.
building Nerf guns when I was like 15, 16.
Okay. So 10.
Okay,
yeah,
because
5,
like
6
I
years
think
ago. That makes
Lynx
sense.
was like 2019 or 2020.
Yeah,
so that
I think I
tracks,
made
that
the Lynx
tracks.
when it came out. Like I remember being excited about it and then buying a hardware kit.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so that would have been like right around that tracks timeline wise, and then
Yeah, that area.
FDL3.
And then I started. Yeah.
FDL3 started phasing out about a year after, so yeah, you probably caught them right at the tail end of them still being around, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, that made me interested, and I made a couple of custom things. I made a brushless Nerf gun that I put on my drone.
Okay.
Because I was building FPV drones at the same.
Right.
I've been building FPV drones at the same time also. So I made a flying brushless Nerf gun at some point.
The dart firing drone is like a bugbear people have been hunting after for a long time. Do you have any video of that? Like, how successful was that project?
I have a picture maybe, but it wasn't very successful. It had all the feeding issues and it was too heavy. So it only flew like a minute.
That's the challenge, right? Is it's like if you're going to do a project like that, you have to be able to build drones, but you also have to be able to successfully build blasters, and then you have to find the connections between those things that cause new problems.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not going to be able to
that's
find
fine.
it.
If you find it later, I'll slap it on the video version of the podcast in post, and people can see what that looks like. But I know that people like we recently some brand licensed like a cheap drivable blaster like dart firing drone, and people flip out anytime there's any vehicle that can fire darts. So you've been doing this for a while. You've been in and out of the hobby. Like, do you go to events? Do you play just with friends, or do you?
No,
do you play with others?
I like the modding and making part of it, but I've never played any.
Oh,
anything.
okay. Yeah.
That reminds me, I have an engineering friend. He seldom goes to like any Nerf events, but he's sporadically, randomly acquired blasters from shops that are 3D printed because he's an engineer. However, he works in aviation and he works in SolidWorks a lot. So he likes to take a look at them, disassemble them, figure out how they were manufactured, and kind of like what the engineering choices behind them were and what he thought about them. So it's kind of like the love of the engineering aspect of it for him more than it is the playing with them. But when he's not doing that, he just plinks at stuff at home.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I really didn't care about the community. I was like that sounds bad, but I didn't join for the
I
community.
understand
I just
that.
joined for the
No,
cool part of it.
Yeah. You came,
Perfectly understandable.
You came at it from an engineering angle. It was an engineering challenge. So this is the next thing.
Yeah.
For
Well,
us to,
I mean, I don't think I could call my 16-year-old self an engineer yet, but yeah.
But talking about
Interested in it.
the Stinger.
Yeah.
That it sounds like you approached it as an engineering challenge. You were trying to
Yeah,
force
that
yourself
was-
to learn something you needed to learn. And
It's
that
like,
was
I mainly just wanted to make something that was hard.
right.
Got it here.
Yep.
It's my personal unit.
Nice.
I mainly just wanted to make something that was like I was decently fluid in CAD, but like small things.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to make a big assembly, like a real product. And that was sort of when I started working on. She had the version 1. somewhere. It's not functional though, but it'll work as a showpiece.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, quite a decent amount changed between 1 and 2, right? Aside from just
Well,
putting a
actually,
side panel on it.
like the maybe you could call it the architecture stayed quite the same.
Mm,
It's still got a metal bar with motors on it. The ESC is in the same place. The electronics are in the same place. The joystick is in the same place. It's just better.
yeah. So what?
But like, the software that runs on it is pretty much compatible. We're still updating version 1 software.
Yeah. What? I mean, so you built this as sort of an engineering project. What was that? That was your primary goal, was to complete a project like this and teach yourself new skills, essentially, or like force
I
yourself to
don't
learn new
know
skills.
why I started it. I think it was also a financial incentive,
Oh,
a
really?
little bit.
Okay.
I think I started it and then realized like, oh shit, this
People might
people
actually
buy
buy it.
this and people want this.
Yeah.
And then I started really going for it
Well,
and really making it like consumer friendly.
who were you hoping to sell them to?
I think I just looked at like the momentum and I was like, okay, well there's people who buy this and it's out of stock, so either it's not being made or people just buy it a lot.
Okay.
And then I looked up a little more and then I found out that people want to buy this sort of stuff.
And you didn't call it
And,
inertia, just to be cheeky? No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know, is that a reference to something?
No, just momentum, inertia, just different.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
I'm a dad, so
no,
I
no.
have
Actually,
to
the
at
name
least
came from
once.
my nephew. The name came from my nephew, and my nephew, we had a joke about bees or something,
Mm,
and I was like, "Well, what do I call my Nerf gun?" And he was like, "Yeah, this something like sting." And then he also made the logo, so
right. The logo's more of the logo. Yeah, it's like a wasp, right? I love it.
it's like a
It's
wasp.
good.
Yeah,
It's really good. Um, did your nephew get a cut of every sale for the? What?
well, no, I help him. I help him with stuff. I like if he has a project that he needs help with, I'll
That's
help him.
great. That's really great. What? So you've advertised the Stinger as the world's most advanced blaster. What?
Kind of clickbait a little bit, you know.
Okay, so dig into that. What?
Well, it's probably true. It's actually true. Like
Okay.
electronically, this is and software, and this is probably the most advanced Nerf gun ever made.
How
Blaster,
how,
sorry.
how I'm not trying to put you to task, but I want to hear you talk about, right? Like I want to hear like your perspective on it, because you saw momentum. You were partially inspired by momentum, which I think like before, like if we're talking specifically about electronic blasters that have a software side to them, before momentum it was the FDL3, then it was momentum, and now Stinger is the challenger to that mantle. So what makes it specifically like more advanced than say momentum?
I haven't used the momentum, but it doesn't have a screen. It doesn't have a joystick. It doesn't have all the gyro features that the Stinger has.
Right?
It doesn't use all of the like as fast as like a pit loop for the motors. Um, the only way momentum is more advanced than Stinger is it has voltage boosting on a solenoid, which we don't have.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's fine because it's still shooting like 32 rounds per minute or rounds per second.
Right.
Um, I don't want to call the momentum bad or anything because it definitely looks like a good design, and we are having our own issues. Definitely, like I'm having some issues with the flywheels on what the people have gotten their units now, and some flywheels have broken, which really sucks because the flywheels were something I really worked a long time on.
Can you
to
remind me
try to
what the
make them better.
manufacturing method on your flywheels is?
It's 3D printing, but like
Right. That's
weeks
right.
of optimization 3D printing.
Yeah.
And the reason I 3D print them is because I actually have pretty small motors for the size of the flywheels, and so I wanted to make them hollow. And by making them hollow, you save about half of the weight.
Right.
CNCing them would be about 3 times as heavy, and if I simulate that with a printed flywheel, the spin-up time is almost double. So I was like, that's not acceptable.
Yeah.
And yeah, the 3D printing is mostly because I can optimize the internal structure of it. And I had a lot of like good experience. Like it worked really well on mine. I had like a couple of them break, but it was usually either I'm pushing them too hard or they were not on them correctly. It just seems like randomly they break and it's frustrating me so
Yeah,
much.
yeah. Hey, Vile's here. Vile, we were just talking about 3D printed flywheels.
But yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Sorry, Vile, Stan, Vile, or at least
Hello.
Vile's
Vile.
desk.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's the nerf blaster.
Yeah, it's usually like that around here.
That does actually answer what was about to be a question from me, because I was interested, because the choice between 3D printed versus potentially CNC Delrin flywheels, as Delrin often is the material used, but that makes a lot of sense actually, though, when you bring that up, though, that it affects spin up times. And I think the only place I've ever seen 3D printed flywheels actually used is specifically in the brushless space. So it makes sense that seeing them there on the Stinger, and the ability to change the interior structure is not really something you could achieve on a CNC mill per se. So
Yeah, and I'm looking into solutions now to the flywheels breaking, and I've ordered a couple of parts from JLC that are SLS and SLA printed. Maybe they offer a solution. Like, I really don't care about it costing more. Like, CNC flywheels are not that expensive. I wouldn't do this if I thought CNC would be the better option, but
Right.
I don't think it is, because the spin up time is already slower than version 1. It's like at 120 to 150 milliseconds, depending on what speed you're spinning up to.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if you make it double that, then it's pretty slow.
Because there was a lot of discussion about that. I remember when it was initially announced, because historically the hobby has had trouble with 3D printed flywheels, but like clearly your process is very different. Your approach to it is very different.
I spent like literally a week in a slicer, like sort of making sure that every move of the printer would be symmetrical, every wall would be in the right place, everything would be. So they usually come out like extremely balanced.
Yeah.
Like, balancing is not the issue. Even because I also tested that, if I make them extremely unbalanced on purpose, it's not like they break easier. It seems to be there's a lot of things that can happen during 3D printing that would make something have a stress point, or something like contraction during melting, or during hardening, or
Right.
random things.
Yeah, or
It
almost
seems to be
almost like they need like a specific cooling process or something, just because of the amount of high stress that they're under when they're
and
performing.
I print them in a really stable environment, so it's not like.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm trying SLS SLA, and I'm shipping all of the Nerf guns. I'm probably gonna add some more flywheels because it's pretty much free for me to make them.
Right.
I'm shipping them with extra ones, and swapping them is, I'd say, very easy. You just you can just swap them pretty much.
Well, that sounds like great business practice. Like, I would always appreciate receiving extra parts, especially specialty parts like that.
oh, for sure.
But okay, yeah. I just want to specifically ask Vile if you have any technical questions about the Stinger, because I know that this is your brain space.
I was curious about the motors, because that was the one thing I was interested in. In the brushless space, there seems to be quite a lot of different type of brushless motors. Were these actually just a single nut, like captive nut on the top? Was it from a like a drones type brushless?
You can check out the video. They are standard drone motors, but
Okay.
they don't use the M5 shaft type of mounting. They use
Okay.
I don't know what it's called. I think T-style mounting, which is just 2 screws on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
front. Because actually, the reason I use these motors is because they're the biggest motors you can get without the 5mm nut style mounting. Because Stinger is so thin that if you would have the M style nut, it would stick out.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I knew that was a bit of a problem through most of these, and the only other person that I know that does a brushless setup that is comparable in size would be Pewtech. He's the only other one, and his is just obviously instead of vertical mounting, he does a horizontal mounting with his, but he also did a completely custom cage, because the other problem obviously with brushless is you need the cooling from the props. And he does his own aluminum cage as a heat sink to help wick away, obviously, that heat from those brushless. Have you ever noticed any issues with heat on that? And is that what your back plate's for?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
it's for. These motors get pretty warm. It's actually the ESC that heats up first. Like the ESC is sitting in here,
Okay.
so it'll overheat first, and there's temperature sensors on the ESC. So if you get it'll shut off first before the motors overheat. So there's kind of
Safety.
motor heat protection.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have been having some issues on that because the ESCs seem to have pretty it's like random temperature sensors. Sometimes they'll read 10 degrees lower, but you can change the shut off temperature in software. So
Okay.
that's a simple fix.
Yeah. So it's all tolerance based, probably when you receive them from the manufacturer, obviously. So there's like a 5 or
I don't
10%,
know.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, this is standard stuff. If you start making a lot of things, then maybe some of them will have different
Yeah, yeah.
tolerances. Yeah.
Of course. So you didn't explicitly build this thinking like, oh, like this is for hobbyists to play in games, but you were thinking about hobby blasters when you did it. How would you characterize the reaction you've had from people who consider themselves like part of the hobby to what you're working on? Because I know you've been interacting some on like Reddit and in a couple Discords with hobby people.
Yeah, I've been interacting a lot in the Kelly Industries Discord. I've made some Reddit posts, a lot of them actually. Like for version 1, I made a lot of, like most of my research came from Reddit. I've contacted pretty much everybody I could find. And people were generally like, this is pretty hard, you probably should. But people were, I think, generally pretty positive.
Okay. What any like specific? Because I remember there was a lot of discussion about like the original images had exposed flywheels. People were talking about
Yeah,
that.
people were freaking out. That is not a problem. The motors have stall protection, so if anything goes in the motors, they'll just stop. And I don't know, maybe people with long hair would have a problem. But yeah, version 2 has a much closer, and if you want completely closed stuff, you can buy this acrylic panel.
Yeah. Well, so what kind of changes? Like, did V2 bring on changes that came from hobby suggestions at all, or was it really just sort of a progressive?
Really, actually,
improvement
not that
from there?
much. Yeah, just like I added stock modules. The stock module was definitely, so I have a Picatinny stock module now, like this one, and so people really like this because they can add their own stock,
Yeah.
and it's swappable, so you have different stock modules. And then, well, really, there wasn't all that much. Mag release, yeah, mag release was a big thing that people wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And then, well,
That's
people
right.
wanted bigger lipos, but the grip is already like pretty big, and it's the batteries in the grip.
Yeah,
So-
that's like a constant interplay in this hobby is like how big is your mag and or battery, and like how does that affect the weight distribution and the grip.
yeah.
I know that
If it is a really big deal, people can this XC30 can be routed through this hole
yeah.
to the stock, and then you can have some sort of battery stock or something.
But yeah, that's nice.
If you really
with
want a
the-
really big battery.
There's like a hole in the stock thing. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know I've seen some comments from some folks, not super local to me, but like local-ish. Axel Sorix was talking to a couple people because there was one, I guess, at an event recently, an Uno event, I think. And yeah, people are having a lot of fun with it. Yeah.
They really love my blaster.
It seems like people are having a lot of fun with it. They have like little quibbles with the controls and the grip and stuff, but overall, like people seem to like it a lot. We're having fun.
There was the previous batch that I just shipped was pretty much only to Uno players or something.
Oh, there you go.
Or at least, yeah.
That's fun.
And there was seems to be a team that really enjoys it. Yeah.
One of the things that we're trying to improve is because I did some last year. I was casting a competitive event on the West Coast, and I really want to improve the tracking of what blasters are being used in competition. So I'd like to know if someone has been running a Stinger as they start to trickle out into the world at competitive events. But the record keeping on it is sort of wishy-washy.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of them either. I just shipped out the 25th unit.
Okay.
So,
Of V2 or overall?
Of V2.
Of V2, yeah. How many V1s were there?
7.
Okay. So it was a quick move to the to the new version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the reason V2 is just more V1 was just shitty to assemble.
Yeah.
V2 V2 was more
It seems
better.
like V1 was kind of a beta, and then V2 is the stinger.
Yeah, I guess yeah.
I remember when I had watched the videos back then, you had that was the first thing that you had brought up, is that it was really difficult to assemble, and you were already looking at ways to deal with stuff with the solenoid, and ways to deal with the screen, and ways to deal with assembly process, custom PCBs, and all that stuff that seemed to be really fixed in the next iteration. It was really interesting as well. I'm not a technical guy or one who understands some of the technical stuff too heavily, but the graphs that you had shown in the video made it really easy to understand certain decisions, like the explanation between the H-bridge or the flyback diode choice on the stuff for the solenoid. It was very, very interesting to watch through, and kind of get in kind of the mind and thought processes behind everything there.
It's what happens, I guess, when the creator is also a videographer. That's where you wind up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty fun making the video.
Yeah. You just did what was the most recent video you posted about it? It was
I did the ultimate quality control.
right.
Basically just giving it to 8 friends and be like, ha, go shoot each other.
Yeah. I love that. That's great. I mean, I think.
Yeah, it was actually a lot of fun.
I mean, that's the core of why to do this ultimately, right? Like, is you've put even if you have a personal goal of learning new skills and the design process, then you put it in people's hands and they get to actually have fun with it. And how does that feel to see people kind of like having fun with the thing that you made?
Well, at the moment, at that time, it was very stressful. But now I'm like, yeah, this is. Well, I mean, I only had one of them, and then having 8 of them on at the same time, like.
Yeah. Oh, right.
1, it's dangerous, and then 2, like it was all like they didn't know how to use it, so I was like, they were also not nerfers; they were just my friends.
Yeah.
You're putting like a delicate piece of engineering equipment into 8 friends' hands who have no idea what they're doing with it, and you're just like, please don't let them break.
Yeah, but the fact that they all worked and nobody really
That's
had
great.
a big issue with it.
That's great. I mean,
I was like,
Yeah.
I remember seeing your first videos about the first version, and there were like kids playing with it. I was like, okay, good luck.
That's my nephew.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, they love what I
Okay,
do.
that
I
makes
always
sense.
show them.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, he was just holding it for a bit. I wasn't giving it to him.
Yeah. So what's next for this design? Are you
That's a good
planning on
question.
continuing to iterate on it? Do you think this is the only Nerf blaster you're ever going to design, or do you want to do
Yeah,
something different?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about this. I think I'm gonna leave it. People like I think I'm gonna make I'm gonna no I'm not I'm not going to make 46 units. Why 46? Because that's how many ESCs I have.
Okay.
And then
Fair enough.
and then I'm going to talk with Bastian, who's my software developer, about like open sourcing, I think.
Okay.
The project. And then any iterations from now and then can come from the community.
I love that. That's great.
But the problem is with open sourcing is I would have done it earlier if it wasn't for the fact that I'd also have to sell hardware kits, because a lot of this stuff is proprietary hardware. And so that's a bottleneck. I am going to look for suppliers soon
Okay.
for parts.
That's cool.
Because the solenoid, the aluminum panels, the motors, the joystick, the display is also kind of pretty custom, like not really off the shelf stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there are people who will go out of their way to make things like that happen, to build, to come up with custom parts and to build things just if they like a design enough. So that's super cool that you're even considering putting it out in the world. I am still curious what, like, if you're thinking of doing any more designs in the future or trying a different kind of thing,
Yeah,
or
I've
if
been
you're off
looking at
to
a
a different
V3
world of
design.
engineering.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of stuff. I'm making just random stuff, but I'm kind of like seeing what I want to do with my life, really.
Yeah.
But I have been looking at the version 3, which would be more focused on making the production side of it as optimized as possible. So making it cheaper
Yeah.
to both make and also be able to have a cheaper blaster. Like not compromise on functionality, but make it cheaper, which is really hard.
Yeah.
Like, really hard. So I would have to have no soldering, no heat inserts, injection molded parts, everything on one PCB, and fix everything so it's more user friendly. And that's not easy.
Yeah.
So
In the brushless space especially.
I've got like a drawing built of an architecture that I think I can use to make that happen. But I'm explicitly not working on it right now because I just want to do other stuff.
Yeah.
Right now. And I have my master's year next year, so I'll have a thesis.
Yeah, that's big. That's a big.
Apparently, that takes a lot of time.
Yeah. Do you? I mean,
Yeah, it does.
do you know what you want to do with your degree?
That's plan B. My degree has always been plan B. Plan A is either videography or start my own company in engineering.
Okay. Cool. That's great.
So I guess it's plan C. Yeah.
Right. Right. Various
Yeah.
various plans.
I hate working for people
I get that.
Yeah, I feel that.
I get that.
or working with, a team that I don't really like. And
Yeah.
if I ever work for a real business and they put me in a team I don't like, I'm just gonna leave.
Yeah, it's tough being in the situation where you feel like you have to tolerate such and such
Yeah.
in order to
Yeah,
like pay the
I don't
bills
like
or
that.
whatever. It's like anything you can do to avoid being in that situation.
As a creative, yeah, it's very, very hard because I was a designer in CAD and working for a company and working for people, it can really crush your ability and your desire with what you can do and what you want to do. Yeah, so I feel that on
Yeah.
100%. So yeah.
And I sort of proved to myself now that I can make this profitable or make something profitable. So I'll be fine.
Good. Well, if nothing else, then I guess Stinger has provided that for you, which is great.
The engineering spirit, I mean, like the business spirit a little bit, yeah.
Right.
It's the proof.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
Mom, it works. I can do this.
da, 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 da. Oh,
Look, Mom, I didn't waste a year of my time.
So we are partially supported by some great folks who donate to us monthly on our Ko-Fi. And one of the perks that they get is to ask our podcast guests questions. And I have a couple for you, and they're related to the Stinger project. So I want to just jump right into them. Colin of Go Slow Taco asks, what was the biggest engineering obstacle you encountered as you were designing the Stinger? How do you typically like to approach something that you don't understand? Do you look up information or just tinker around, etc.?
That's a really good question. I've read the notes and I've thought about this. I don't know. I think one of the biggest problems was PCB and software. Like software. I can do PCB designs maybe a little bit. And so I guess my solution has been to hire someone to do it for me.
That's
I
reasonable.
work with Bastian now. Well, I don't hire him. We kind of work together.
Yeah.
Bastian. He gets part of the profit that I make. And he designed the PCB.
Mm-hmm. It's cool.
Focus.
That's fine.
Okay, whatever.
We get the joke.
And he made the software, and the software is invaluable to me. It's invaluable, valuable. Yeah, valuable to me. It's the beating heart of Stinger. So. Yes, but and actually to answer the question then more about if you have like a technical problem, I honestly the first thing I do is ask Claude or ChatGPT. If they don't give me a straight up answer, I'll do more Googling. And then I'll usually find it. And then maybe Google will send me to YouTube and I'll watch a YouTube video, but I don't like watching YouTube videos.
Just not. Yeah. The like life story before you before they tell you about the like three before they tell you about the three lines of code. I literally like all the time I am looking for a solution to a problem and it starts with, "What's up, YouTube? This is your boy." Da da da. And I'm just like, nope. Gonna find a different
No.
source. I just like
No.
I already can't take the information from this person just from that.
Yeah.
It's wild to me because I get how if you're like purely like a personality based content creator, that kind of stuff can improve your metrics and like making people feel welcome in your space or whatever. But if you're an information based, if your goal
Yeah.
is, if your video is like, here's the solution to your problem, how does that help? I can't imagine that most people aren't reacting the way that we react. Where it's like,
No.
I came here for a solution. If you give me the solution, I might subscribe to your channel so I can find your solutions later. Like if I just get the solution right off the bat, you're a resource I want access to later. If you're going to babble for like 5 minutes first, I'm not coming back to you. Yeah.
I found in CAD, for CAD questions, if I'm looking up how to, like the best way to use a tool, videos that are between a minute to about maximum of 3 minutes. Those
Yeah.
creators who have figured it out and they just jump into exactly what I need and they don't. I appreciate those people so much.
Yeah.
It just gets to the point. That's all I need.
That's why I use Onshape. They have such good videos.
Same.
Everything.
I use Onshape as well. Yeah.
Big Al of Monkeytron Collective, who is coming on the podcast very soon, 2 episodes from now or next episode. I don't remember. Anyway, he was also one of the organizers of a number of events in the UK, including Foam Fest, or one of the organizers. Did you have a target in terms of performance before you started designing, or did performance come after the main design process?
No, I had a performance. I had an FPS and a darts per second, I think, a goal. See, no, I didn't. Not for version 1. For version 2, I had a goal. Yeah, I don't know.
Sure.
I think my goal was just make it the most advanced.
For version 1, it was just like shoot dart.
Shoot dart
Shoot
out of the
dart.
barrel.
Consistently.
Dart come out, dart good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, but,
That come out.
Yeah.
That good. Yeah.
but yeah, version 2, they had 2 variants of the flywheels. I think this is the High Crush. So yeah, the High Crush did like 260 FPS or something.
Okay.
Version 2 does less, but some people have shown me 230. But yeah, I don't have a... FPS is just spin your motors faster, and my motors don't even... They spin at 50% throttle most of the time, so... Yeah.
Interesting.
And the darts per second went up because we have rapid decay now.
Yeah, because one of the things that's interesting about this question is for a lot of people designing like more within the hobby who go to events and stuff, they'll design with a specific goal in mind because like they have a local event that has a cap of this, or they have a local event where like this kind of performance is optimal for what they're doing. Like they don't want to go over a certain number, but they want to get as close as they can to it, but within a certain form factor that they really enjoy. So a blaster will sort of like a whole design will come out of those specific limitations that someone's trying to achieve. So it's interesting to hear about that from someone who's designing from more of an engineering perspective of like the design process kind of being a big part of the goal.
Yeah. I didn't have a goal in mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
People gave me the goal, though. People were like, it should do 200. But also the nice thing about Stingers is doesn't matter how hard you shoot, it won't impact anything.
Yeah.
You can just change it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You can just adjust it. Yeah.
Like if you want to shoot 150, it's not going to be less accurate or less better.
Which is
the same.
challenging. I mean, that's a mark of success. Like if you're, because there are definitely, I mean, especially in the Springer world, but flywheelers
Yeah.
as well, where like you lose a lot of other metrics.
Here it's just change your motor speed. And
We didn't get a question from our trivia raffle winner last episode, but now we have reached the point where it's time to throw some trivia questions at you. One of the ways that this works is you are playing for the opportunity for someone randomly selected from the Discord to ask a free question of our next podcast guest. And hilariously, I ran the raffle, but I forgot to check the podcast guest schedule to say who that person is. I always have to forget some piece of this in order for the bit, I guess. I don't know. Grim, you want to look that up for me real quick? It's on the schedule thing.
Oh, I'm already ahead of you.
Yeah,
on
I
that.
figured you would be.
Doing it right now.
But the raffle winner this...
It is Blasterface is the next.
Blasterface is up next. That's right. Okay, it's Blasterface, and then it's
Then it's Al.
Then it's Al. Okay, cool.
Then it's Al.
So Blasterface, for anyone that doesn't know, has been involved in the blaster design industry with a number of major companies for a very long time, and we're really excited to dig in with him and get some insider info that a lot of folks may not have heard. So this is a really lucrative, that's the wrong word, not lucrative. This is a really valuable opportunity, I think, to publicly ask him a question. So Icarus, IK2 capital A's, I always read it and go, Icarus. Someone pretty well known in the online hobby. You are the raffle winner, and if Stan is able to get 2 out of 3 trivia questions right, my chair just broke. Okay, I fixed it. Is able to get 2 out of 3 trivia questions right, you get an opportunity to ask Blasterface a question in our next podcast. Vile, you want to read the name of our trivia?
Stinger? I hardly knew her.
We are asking you questions about other blasters named Stinger. How do you feel? How do you feel about that? What are your chances?
There are other blasters that are called Stinger. I don't know. I thought I was the first.
Well, not quite. Who wants to read the first question, Vile Grims?
I could go first.
You go first, Vile.
We'll do it. All right. The oldest known blaster made by any brand called Stinger dates back to 1993, and Nerf has used the name for at least 4 times since. What ammo did Nerf's first Stinger blaster fire? Is it A, foam arrows, B, micro darts, or C, dart tag Velcro darts?
I don't know what either of those things are.
So I almost brought some up. I forgot. The arrows are the arrows are like the big ones are like this big. They have big fins on them. Micro darts are from before. So you know the half-length darts that Stinger fires, the full-length elite darts. This was before the elite darts. This was the thing we had. It was like slightly smaller and they had suction cups on them, and then that eventually evolved into.
That's the arrow.
The arrow is the first one. Those are big. Those are like yay big.
It originally came on the bow and arrow, actually.
Yeah. A bunch of really early stuff. And then the micro darts were pre-elite
and the Velcro?
darts. And then the third one is dart tag Velcro darts. So dart tag was a line where you got this like Velcro vest that you would wear, and the Velcro darts would stick to it. And they did like a televised tournament for dart tag.
I'm going to go with option B.
With the micro darts, you would actually be correct. Yeah, that's great process of elimination there.
Yeah. I put a lot of background
too.
information here. We don't have to just read all of it, but
But
the 1990 there's a little bit of a trick question because the 1993 blaster is not Nerf's blaster. It was a totally different thing. It's the Stinger missile system by Tootsie Toy in 1993. Wallcom covered it in a 2021 video. They shot the Nerf arrows, but it's not a Nerf product. But yeah, the Stinger, the year 2000 was the Stinger. Mm-hmm. And it was micro dart firing, and it had a folding handle. It would like...
Wait, am I correct or not?
You're correct.
You are correct.
Sorry,
you are correct.
You got it.
Yeah, it was the micro darts.
Year 2000, the Nerf Stinger, it like had a handle that like unfolded.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go.
All right, Grim, you want to read the next question? We're already one out of 2 that we need.
Made in 2016, Blue Stinger is an integration by Naptown Nerf, a blaster made by integrating the shells of a Nerf Strife with what blaster by another manufacturer? Is it A, the Buzzbee Stinger, B, Koosh Vortex, or C, Boomco Rail Stinger? A little bit of a word fumble there.
And the word was Stinger, which is amusing.
I don't know what. B.
You would be correct.
So that's really funny. Okay, so yeah, wow.
Yeah, the vortex offered a large bulbous shell section reminiscent of a wasp's abdomen.
It looks a lot
Friend
like
of
your logo, like the Stinger logo.
Yeah, very, very, very similar. Friend of the podcast, Grim Reaper 2458, later referenced this build in their own non-binary
Strife.
non-binary Strife build.
So
I actually signed that a while back at 2022 Endor. I remember that build.
I should actually
show that on screen.
Yeah. I definitely should. I'm. Of course, you would think that I would have gotten this ready together before, but I didn't. Okay, so this is the Koosh Vortex Tornado, and I actually should have said tornado, but it doesn't matter. They fired these like plastic rings, but this bulbous part with the stock coming out, people integrated these with strifes and stuff all the time for a while, and they wind up looking like wasps. It's pretty sweet. Okay.
I'm way too good at this.
You apparently, yeah. So we got one more question anyway. I wrote the question, so we're gonna ask it to you regardless.
Yay.
How do there we go. Okay, great. An early 3D printed flywheeler, very likely the first 3D printed flywheeler, was called Stinger. I just broke my chair again. Released in 2017 on Thingiverse and announced via Reddit. It was a single-stage flywheeler firing full-length elite darts, compatible with Nerf magazines, with a geared mechanical pusher and a battery storage stock, although other creators quickly made alternative parts to store the battery on the side. Who designed this Stinger? Was it A, Captain Slug, B, Blaster Forge, or C, Explorer?
I think Captain Slug does air things, no? So I think B or C. I think B.
You're correct. Have you ever listened to our podcast before?
No.
There's a running joke where sometimes I'll just make all the answers B, and I.
You did it now?
Beret, I have to bring it up. Beret is going to be so mad watching him just blast right through this whole thing without any problems.
So this video that I have looping on Instagram.
That's a weird design.
This is from 2017, and it is so I couldn't fully confirm this, but it seems like this is the first widely available, or the first like 3D printed flywheeler specifically.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
period.
flywheel.
And it was like, because people were talking about like, oh, like you should something a strife for it, and people were like, no, you don't understand. This is a new thing. People were so used to modding strifes to make their own flywheelers that like people in comments are like having trouble wrapping their heads around the fact that this is just a completely new blaster. It was just such a new idea at the time. So and you actually, if anyone wants to study their history, I guess, you can still get the files for this on Thingiverse. It's still public. And you can build your own. It's got all the assembly instructions and everything. Build your own.
That's pretty cool.
Stinger. So this is the Stinger at home, I guess. If you can't afford Stan's Stinger, you can build Blaster Forge's Stinger.
And then you can see you have a Stinger. You have a Stinger version 2 even.
There you go.
Version 4.
This is I mean, maybe this is version 0. It's fine.
No, it says version 4.
There you go. Yeah. So I guess yours is actually version 6.
Yeah. I guess I'm I guess I'm just behind.
yeah. You got to do more versions if you're gonna keep up. Also, fun. I thought that this was fun. I don't know if you're aware of this, but we are the second or third Nerf news show, and Jangular, who has appeared on our show a few times, covered this blaster on his 12th episode.
He's got some pretty cool hair,
doesn't he? I know. He still has good hair, actually. Anyway, so also I wanted to quickly give honorable mentions to the 1994 Sonic Stinger bow and arrow, the 1996 Stinging Scarab, which was a Max Force blaster that actually looked like a scarab and had like a tail that whipped up and shot a dart. The Stinger Raven, which I actually have, which is just a yellow Raven, but they called it a Stinger Raven because it's bee colors. And Stinger, which is a Busby Tech 6 mod that Mongoose Jake did in 2020.
Wasn't there also like a Jolt that was called a Stinger?
Yes, that almost made it into into one of the questions too. The Elite 2.0 Jolt is called. Oh no, the Alpha Strike Jolt is called a Stinger.
The Alpha Strike, like cheap.
Yep,
not like the really cheaped out Strife, or not Strife,
yes.
But Jolt.
No
Stinger.
honorable mention to that thing. It's one of the worst things that Nerf has ever made.
A very uncomfortable grip.
Yep. Anyway.
Yeah, very bad.
So congratulations, 3 out of 3. All B's straight down the line. Icarus, get in touch if you'd like to take advantage of your question.
Is this
for
perhaps
Blasterface.
a B joke hidden in there somewhere?
Maybe. So, I want to talk a little bit. I don't know why I stopped my screen share because I'm clearly about to use it again. About a few other things that have come out recently. We're going to start with this. Now, how did you pronounce this, Grim, on the show?
Uller.
Okay. And what did we figure out it was named after? This is the one that's named after...
It was like a god of a hunt, I believe.
Yeah.
So
this is fun because it uses... it's a rotating chamber barrel, but it's like a full powered modern competitive Springer, which normally would be magazine
cylinder fed pump action Springer.
You go ahead. You studied it. You did the article on this. I didn't.
It is interesting for a number of reasons, because normally when you see a Springer come out, they're typically Talon mag fed rather than just having only 8 darts. But this one was very unique in the fact that it chose specifically to be cylinder fed. The other interesting thing is something we've been seeing a lot more designers getting into, and it's making a design that is competitive while still maintaining a balance of as little filament and as little hardware required as possible for low weights. Mm-hmm. So there was a previous design we covered a couple weeks ago called Rush, and its whole objective was to be a competent competitive Springer that could be printed in like a day or two, essentially. Right. And this one is very similar, low hardware, and I think it weighs only about 600 grams all in all. Low hardware and a bunch of like very, very surprising performance for as little weight and the materials and everything else that's required for it.
Did we hear anything on this about why specifically they were going with a cylinder fed design? Like, was there
no? From what I could tell, it was just for the flair.
Just because it's fun.
The only thing I had to guess is like, maybe I remember Taffy at one point was fiddling around with a similar cylinder fed design that they scrapped. I don't think they probably directly took anything off of that, but maybe they had seen that and saw, oh, hey, I want to build something like that.
I do remember like a piranha variant or like a red herring variant. I think that was.
I think it was a red herring variant that was going to be cylinder fed, and then they gave up on it.
Yeah.
Or just put it away for the time being. But I think it was just personal flair and maybe further weight reduction rather than having to work on a magwell and all that other stuff. But it's really unique, just because like you don't see cylinder fed primaries, let alone that often.
Yeah. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier with it's hard to tell what impetus will cause someone to design a specific blaster that has like such really specific, really sort of specific layout choices and design choices. Because I mean, the play style of this, right? It's like you have competitive power, but you're just picking up darts off the ground and shoving them in the cylinder, which is not a common play style. I also want to look at the Smiley, which we now actually have a printables page for, which is a bolt action. So this is based on the Renfield Mark III, which isn't actually out, right, Vile?
Right. Yes. The Renfield was an unreleased one from Mr. Heathpants, and well, as of right now, again, he's still trying to get it out, but
someday. But the original is lever action.
Correct. Right. Yeah, it moved the plunger tube into the grip section, so it's at a bit of an angle, and it has a bit of a like a cantilever type setup. When you pull it back, it'll actually prime it down. And then
you
back
can
up.
actually you can see the plunger through the viewing window there.
Right. Which is an interesting design, especially moving it at like not in line and being able to get that amount of leverage that you need to actually prime it. It also has a quick change pin on the back, right on the very bottom. You can see, actually, that's a perfect run. There's a cutout. There's a quick release pin on the back. You can just pull it out. It pulls the entire back end out, and you can just quick swap a spring.
Oh yeah,
and then
down here.
there was a barrel collet on the front as well to quickly swap the barrel. So you can change and tune your blaster on the fly quite quickly.
That's cool.
So yeah, you can change FPS ranges very fast on this.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing that hearing you, Stan, talk about, the adjustability, particularly with a brushless blaster, of being able to do that digitally. Like, people have been sort of doing things like this to try to get some of that same adjustability in a Springer, and it results in some sort of like...
it looks really cool.
Yeah.
Quick takedown pins, barrel collets.
You could just take the Springer out, I guess.
Yeah, you swap the spring force or the strength of that spring, and then obviously the length of the barrel to accommodate.
At some point, I was thinking about making an AEB that has a solenoid kind of way of pushing back the cylinder, and then you can change how far it gets pushed back to change the FPS. Or have a solenoid valve control the airflow.
So you do have machinations for a future blaster.
It was a dream I had.
We'll be talking about AEBs in a little bit, for sure. Another one quickly here is Relor, and talking about customizability and changing of settings. The design concept behind this, I should go to this picture, I guess, is customizability. Who covered this? I don't remember.
I did.
So
Rolor is based on the Song of Ice and Fire's Lord of Light, and it's basically a Flycore project that's modus operandi of this project is it can be whatever you want it to be. So you can make it solenoid powered if you want. You can have it as a geared normal trigger pull if you want. You can have a dual stage trigger, a rev trigger if you prefer, like 3 or 4 different stock options, different grips, plenty of Picatinny rail, and then like different motor cage setups.
It is only brushed, right?
Yes.
Brushed, specifically brushed setup, yeah. So it's just like as much different options they could come up with for the externals and feature set for a brush setup as they wanted.
It looks like a combination of a Griffin and a Flycore system, basically.
Pretty much.
Because the back end, the grip in the back end looks like the Griffin, which obviously has quite a lot of options, but then the front end is obviously all Flycore, or the core is obviously Flycore based. So,
right.
Okay.
Shout out to Flygonial from the Griffin. He gave me some good advice.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Great contact if you're trying to do any kind of fly design. What's for dinner?
Yeah, I'm eating.
I can't tell what that is.
This.
Oh, because
I think it's. You ordered it for me.
Whatever they handed you. While you were recording.
We have to go in a bit, so I'm eating.
Totally. Okay, I want to make sure we get to the extra thing. So let me just show you one other thing.
Take your time.
So this was sent to us via one of our. Actually, Jake shared this, right?
Jake
I believe so.
this.
Yes.
This is what is this thing called? Blaze.
Thunder Blaze.
And it's kind of It's like when you see just the pictures, you're like, oh, it's just a little Nerf pistol. No, it's like a giant hand cannon with like a turnaround, thing going on.
It's not exactly like the Gecko. The Gecko was a very well-known blaster in our hobby space that had a turnaround system. The plunger tube obviously is facing a different direction. They actually did a completely different type of turnaround that actually has an adjustable knob. It creates an air restriction, which actually adjusts the FPS range. They moved things like the mag catch into the actual bottom sleeve of the mag, which is another design that was very interesting. Most people try to keep it within the grip somewhere. It also has dart lock, so if it runs out of darts, it will actually lock the slide in the back position. And also, when there's a little mechanism inside of the right around where the slide is located that when you prime it, it'll actually give you a little prime indicator on the back to let you know that a dart has been loaded and chambered and that it's actually loaded. It has the front handle also acts as a catch, so it locks the slide in position to prevent it from wanting to move back. Which I'm wondering if that was a design choice, because sometimes with spring-powered blasters, when you do a trigger pull, it sometimes will move the slide back, or it can release a little bit, which obviously you don't get as good of a seal. And it locks the whole thing in place to prevent that from actually moving, which means it gets the performance should always be consistent. And it has a spring return. So if it locks back, there is an actual lock on the side of the grip. When you pull it down, it'll actually it'll rack it back forward.
That's really this sort of stuff really impresses me. This is crazy.
This
is from
they packed so
creator.
much into this thing.
Yeah, the some of the designers out of China, which we don't get a lot of information from. We now have contacts in China like Jake and Sovan. These are two people that I talk with quite regularly now, and that we talk with, who are showing us a lot of these designers out of China that really do come up with some really fascinating designs. It's stuff that, again, you don't see a lot of the other designers and engineers who've been doing this for a while haven't tried, and they try something, they have an idea and then they just kind of do it, and I'm always impressed at their methods of how they do these. It's really, really worth keeping an eye on. The only downside is for us is that it's on only places like Bilibili, which is the Chinese variant of YouTube. And obviously a lot of them are don't really leave China. So it's nice kind of getting that sort of peek behind the veil.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting because I wouldn't say it's like we don't have people from China who interact with the rest of the hobby at large. It's just that there are a lot of designers who design things almost in isolation from the rest of the hobby itself. So it's interesting seeing this almost like a parallel progression and what they come up with kind of almost in their own isolation away from everything else. Yeah. That isn't to say they probably haven't seen some stuff from over what we have, but we have largely no input or contact over with these guys as they're making these things. So this is kind of just their own imagination and engineering goals put into a product without any of the influence of like most of the hobby and just what they wanted to make. So it's always really fascinating seeing designs like this hand cannon here, for example. That's at first my first instinct was like, oh, it's just like a Gecko clone. And then when I looked at it, I had a conversation with the Vial. Much more than that. Yeah. It's like way more feature packed than any Gecko I've seen. It is in its own right just a beautiful hand cannon.
Oh yeah, I forgot to actually mention during that it does have slam fire.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I actually forgot to mention that during the segment on the news.
Now they're just showing off, you know.
Yeah, it also has slam fire, so if you just hold the trigger down and then just prime it, it'll just fire off a shot right as you finish the slide. Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah, it's I mean, I hope that, because I think it was kind of like when people were really surprised by the Stinger coming out, and you had some contact with the hobby, like you knew what you were trying to achieve, but like I think a lot of people sort of saw it as like outsider art in some ways, and I think similarly people see some of these designs that way, where and I hope that people can see this and things like the Stinger and like take new ideas from it and continue to sort of like grow the range of things, because it's very easy for a hobby to become, for like a design group to become kind of insular and start to sort of like design the same things over and over and over again. This is like most of the individual features on this are not things we've never seen before, but seeing all of this together achieved this way in a blaster this small, this is very unique. And really, really cool. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about what's been going on with X-Shot. So we have to start with this or people are going to get angry at us. This is the X-Shot Pro. What is the actual name? It's like the...
An AEB?
Yes. So it's the motorized piston pump blaster. Please make the picture bigger. I hate these websites so much.
Oh yeah, it makes it a pain for me as well with thumbnail
so
stuff.
bad. Anyway, it's an AEB that costs $70, 90 euro,
That's crazy.
and comes with a bearing scar. Go ahead, please. I want to.
That's great. No, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, swappable barrels, bearing car.
Yeah, select
it
fire.
Looks like it.
Semi or auto.
Yeah, it'll have a select for between semi
Buffer
and full,
tube
from what we
stock,
know.
it's-
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like it has
looks-
a mag release in a good place. That
Yeah.
frequently doesn't happen.
I have to wonder if that what people are thinking is a second mag release, if that isn't the actual full auto or semi-auto selector switch.
That makes sense to me.
Because look, there's like even a line in the plastic right there. I'm betting that's the selector switch for the semi or
It
full
seems
auto.
unlikely that they'd have a lever going from here to over to here to like connect these two pieces of plastic. That doesn't make sense to me. I think that you're right. I think that that's selector switch because I don't see one on the side, but we are also only seeing one side of the blaster.
I had seen everyone say, "Oh, there's two mag releases. That one's going to be easier to grab." I was like, "No, that doesn't seem like a spot you'd really put a mag release. It has to be like some kind of like selector switch there,
or a safety switch, maybe. Without seeing the other side, it's kind of hard to speculate what it is.
Right.
Now, I have seen people say that lining it up with the BK1S, a lot of stuff seems to line up very closely. So it could be something similar internally. Mm-hmm. And if it is, I've heard both positive and negative things on them. So it could go either way. But we are kind of in an uncharted territory here with an AEB at 70 euros or 70 United States dollars and 90 euros.
And so like that's part of the thing that's fascinating about this is people have been begging like Dart Zone to make an AEB, to make a pro AEB. Or Nerf to make a pro AEB, and if you had asked me to bet on which company would be the first one to make a pro AEB, I would have lost some money because X-Shot was not on my list to do that at all.
X-Shot wasn't even on the list for me at all.
They did their first flywheeler how many like months ago, and now we have this. Obviously, these things have been in the pipeline for X number of years, but like, it is kind of wild that this exists. Adjustable stock buffer tube, I guess.
Yeah, it's a buffer tube.
It is buffer tube. Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's the reason why I think the BK1S is the comparable one is because everything down to even where the charging handle is, you can see the little pink nub right there on the top.
Right.
That's to be able to rack it. It's all in a very similar location. They're probably using a very similar platform. Probably similar gearing system that the BK1S uses, because obviously they're going to try to keep that cost down. They're
to have a motor and gears and a spring and everything. That's crazy.
Yeah. They put it all in there, and we had a Chinese designer.
And a battery.
Yeah, the Chinese designer Colonel Wasp made one, and he utilized the gearing system out of Airsoft. So a lot of them were trying to use off-the-shelf parts, obviously to keep costs down. And I'm curious what X-Shot is, because you're now looking at an actual company doing this. So I'm curious.
Right.
I have to intersect. There's apparently a workshop starting here in 1 minute.
Oh my goodness.
Huh? In 1 hour. But yeah, they're setting up it now.
Oh, okay. I mean, we're almost done here.
Yeah.
I mostly I wanted your reaction to this, honestly.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I've tried designing AEB like in CAD, like not well, seriously, but it's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard
Yeah.
to have it working, and I don't think I'll ever do it anymore. I thought I would try to, but it seems to be just so complicated, like mechanically,
Yeah.
like
I
it's not even worth it to try.
So the thing about this, though, that I want to say, this is huge, right? The fact that we're going to have a Pro AEB, that it's at this low price point, that
Oh, yeah,
like it's going to
absolutely.
be available worldwide because like Xshot has the widest distribution of any of the major companies. There'll probably be a lower power version in parts of Europe because that's what they've done consistently, but it will probably be internally identical aside from the spring, if I had to guess, because that's what's happened with all the other ones. So people have been able to upgrade the springs in them to get pro performance out of them. It seems like Xshot realizes this and has kept the design the same as a result, to make sure that the customers that they want to be happy with that are happy with that. People are treating this like it is the second coming. And like it is a big deal, but
Yes, it is.
companies do not define what, like, it's not that historic, right? Like they've been developing this product for a while. They've kept it at a low price point, and that's exciting and it's good, and I'm probably going to get one, but like it's not changing the whole world. I don't know. I feel like people are overhyping this a little bit, not in terms of it being a cool product or it being at this price point, but just like
I think the accessibility though makes it easy.
yeah.
That makes it enticing.
Maybe it's just my time spent in the hobby, but I remember when I heard stories from like Bobo and them explaining back when they thought, oh yeah, the Raider was going to ruin HVZ
Right.
because of its 35 round magazine. The Stampede was going to ruin HVZ because it had full auto. It was actually an AEB, the first AEB way back when, or back when magazine fed flywheelers came out, it was going to ruin HVZ, or insert competitive thing here. We've lived through so many cycles of this thing is going to completely change the landscape, and it has never completely changed the landscape unless really you're talking about the accessibility of pro level blasters.
Right.
When we got the Nexus Pro.
Yeah.
And that was specifically because it became literally as simple as walking to your Walmart and picking up some half darts.
Yeah.
That was a complete landscape change. That isn't to discount what Xshot is doing here, because I think it's an absolutely wonderful thing, and I'm very eager to see how it does, and I do want one. I just think overhyping it too much will inevitably set it up for failure in people's eyes if they overhype what they're expecting to be getting.
That's been a big
It's probably
cycle.
still pretty cheaply built, like for $70.
Definitely.
It's not
So,
like-
Yeah.
well, so that's one of the interesting things is Xshot's pro. Have you handled any of Xshot's recent pro stuff, Stan? Have you had a chance to play with any of it?
I don't know what Xshot is.
Oh,
Sorry.
fair enough. So Xshot is a brand by Zuru. It's like an international toy company. And they've been making, I don't know, Xshot goes back to like mid-2000s, I guess. They've been making blasters for a long time. They're definitely the like lower cost company, but they've always had a better like cost to quality ratio. Like they definitely give you more out of the little money that you spend generally. They've all their shells have always been very cheap plastic, and lately it seems like they've learned how to better use the same cheap plastic but better engineer it so it feels more solid and better. So like their most recent pro blasters they have like a $15 blaster that shoots like 150 FPS, and is reliable and comes with Talon compatible magazines, and like it's great. So seeing this from them, like this price point makes sense from them for this. And will it be like cheaply made? Yes, but I think also it's going to not
It'll work.
feel quite, it's going to work. It's not going to feel quite as cheap as it actually is, because they have actually been really good at that. So yeah, it is really interesting to see this happen from them. Really, really fast. This is the other weird thing that we just saw from them that is loading because my internet, I guess, is just what's going on here. Well, the point is it is a blaster that has a light and smoke effect. This is obviously much more of a toy, and this isn't loading. I give up. It's fine. But here it is. And look at this. Look at this amazing tiny picture. So good. I can't even zoom it. So great. Anyway, whatever. It's weird to see a smoking barrel. We haven't seen one for 10 years. I don't actually care about this. If anyone wants to talk about it, we can talk about it, but we can also skip it.
Yeah, just skip it. It's self-explanatory.
No. The good thing that X-Shot is about to do is we've confirmed that it's a flywheeler, and it's supposed to be in the same line as this blaster. And I think that is going to be the best release of 2025. So I'm excited to have a unicorn flywheeler. Shoots darts out of the horn. If you haven't seen this, it's so good. And this is the best part. And I expect to see this on version 3 of the Stinger. The wings move when you fire it.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So you should have little wings off the Stinger that flap every time a dart comes out, and I think that'll really kind of like finish the yeah.
I'll make it flap 50 times a second.
That's good. Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, I mean, scientists don't know why a bee is able to fly. Their body should be too fat. I'm just kidding.
This Nerf gun should not be able to fly.
Stan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast to chat with us. Really, really great to get your perspective on the hobby and the design process around putting a blaster like this together. Where can people find you online and check out your work, both the Stinger and maybe your other video work, whatever you want to share?
Just look up Nerf Stinger, or my YouTube channel is FPV YouTube channel is just FPV.
Great. We'll have links.
But not the first one that comes up. The second one.
Just FPV 1432, right?
You'll see my face.
Yes, got it. Okay. We'll have links to that below the thing, so hopefully people won't mess that up. You should send us some footage from your drone flying tonight. We'll pop it on the end of the thing so people. Yeah,
Uni was gonna fly. Was gonna vlog. He was gonna vlog. With this camera.
Oh yeah. Nice.
Perfect.
So we're gonna do a little vlog.
Oh sweet. Okay. Well we'll be looking for that. Well great. Vile Grims, got anything to say?
I'll be streaming as usual.
Yeah. Grims has been up and Vile just got up.
Yeah.
So we did make it to 4 different time zones simultaneously, but we all have seemed to survive. And with that, we will see y'all in 2 weeks. We will be, a week and a half-ish since we're late, but we'll be back with Blaster Face. That's going to be a really big one. Looking forward to that. And more news. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and good night.